Our fourth topic is sense and reference. Let me introduce you to the question that we're trying to answer in this fourth topic. We've seen simple model of mental states that one aspect of mental states is their content. This is a dimension along which mental states can differ. Here's a question. How could we distinguish contents? We want to distinguish mental states just along the content dimension. How should we do that? A very natural thought is by reference to the things that we are thinking about. What makes the thought different in content from another is that one thought is about one thing, another thought is about another thing. So we use the things thought about in order to distinguish them. So let's say that I say to you, look, Hendrix is the best guitarist here by far. And you say to me, no, Steve, it's Kevin Shields. So we're there thinking thoughts which differ along the content dimension. And the natural thought here is that we can distinguish those thoughts by appeal to the things that they are about. By appeal, in this case, to Shields and Hendrix themselves. Now I realise this is a badly chosen example, I'm sorry for that. Most people at my lectures are far too young even to have met Kevin Shields on his glorious second coming, let alone the first. So probably you've got no idea who I'm talking about. Google is your friend, I guess. So there's a natural and compelling thought. We distinguish the contents of thoughts by reference to the objects that we're thinking about. What could go wrong? Well, here's what could go wrong. Good thing you asked. I have here for you a logically valid argument. Superman can fly. Superman is Clark. Therefore, Clark can fly. This is not only a logically valid argument, it's the kind of argument that you'll be able to prove when you study first-order logic using a rule called identity elimination. No question. Good. Here's a variation on that same argument. Lois thinks Superman can fly. Superman is Clark. Therefore, Lois thinks Clark can fly. Now, if we think that what distinguishes one thought from another is just the things that the thought is about, so that we distinguish the contents of thoughts by appeal to, in this case, Superman and Clark, then the fact that Superman is Clark would tell us that the thoughts that Lois has in 1 and in 3 don't differ in content. They have the same contents. And so this argument would therefore be logically valid. But it seems that the argument can't be logically valid because if you said Superman can fly, Lois would agree with you. Surely she would. She's seen him fly. But if you said Clark can fly, Lois would disagree with you. She would strongly deny that, I think. Or if she did believe you, she'd be incredibly surprised. Now, I think the reason Lois would agree with you is that's because she thinks that Superman can fly. And the reason that she would disagree with you when you told her, look, Lois, Clark can fly, well, that's because she thinks Clark cannot fly and doesn't think that he can fly. So if this is right, we have to, of course, conclude Lois doesn't think Clark can fly, and we have to therefore think that the argument that I showed you to begin with is not logically valid. There must be a possible world in which the two premises are true and the conclusion is false. Indeed, just such a possible world is described by the film Superman, or so it seems. And I'm going to assume that things are how they seem on this occasion. It follows then, because this argument's not logically valid, that thoughts 1 and 3 have to be distinct with respect to their contents. After all, we fix the subject, we fix the attitude. The only thing that could change is the content. Follows from that we can't think that we distinguish the contents of thought by appeal just to the objects about which people are thinking. If we distinguish thoughts just by appeal to the objects thought about, because Superman is Clark, it's the same object thought about in each case. It would therefore be the same content, and so the same thought. But it can't be the same thought because 3 is false, while 1 and 2 are true. So we have to reject this idea that I introduced to you a moment ago, the idea that it's by reference to the objects we are thinking about that we distinguish contents. That idea will not work at all. And here comes the question. Once we've got rid of that idea, which is actually the simplest idea, the question becomes, well, how is it that we are going to distinguish contents? And that is the question which will occupy us in this fourth part of the course. This is the question about sense and reference. That's slightly odd because I haven't told you yet what sense is or what reference is. We haven't talked about those terms at all. So we're in a strange situation. I've introduced the question, I've told you that this is the question, but I haven't explained it in relation to any of the terminology. I'll come to that later. I want to do substance first and terminology later. When I was preparing these lectures, I actually tried to do it the other way around and introduce the terminology first, and the whole thing got so tangled in technicalities and formalities, I thought most people would miss the really important thought. The important thought here is not something that requires any special jargon or complicated thinking to understand. The basic question is this: we know that we can't distinguish thoughts just by appeal to the things that they're about. There must be more going on than that if we're going to capture somebody's thoughts, their point of view in the broad sense. The question is just, how do we do that? What can we use to distinguish the content of one thought from the content of another thought?